But don't work.
Button didn't work. What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night, and welcome back to the 20th edition of the Orion Podcast. I am Chad Brock.
And I am Zach Bailiff.
I'm out of order again. I did it again. And got it working. Got it. Just for you. Ah, man. Back at it. Episode 20. Have we arrived yet? I don't know.
Nah, I don't know.
We're getting there. We're starting to stack up. We're in the 20s now. I mean, we're almost of drinking age. One more episodes.
Yeah.
That's, we're getting there. Oh,
yeah,
man.
we're getting there.
Wonky weather. You're coming home to hunt. I'm going to fish a tournament. It's going to be a good weekend, man. As long as we don't screw it up.
One of the guys I was talking to today will eventually have him on here. And with hunting season going on, it's tough right now because everybody's schedules are so, odd and jam-packed. But he's getting ready to head to Iowa to hunt, which, for those that don't know, that's like dreamland for whitetails. And it's 81 degrees on November 1st, and he's like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's like we had snow, and it's been pretty much 70 and 80.
Yeah, you guys had enough snow to accumulate it about 3 or 4 days before I came home last time to hunt, and then I show up, and that night it's like 63 degrees for the next 4 or 5 days that I've got to hunt. I'm like, well, this was a waste.
And that's pretty much how it's been all fall. It took the leaves a while to fall off, and then the water hasn't really. I mean, usually right now you would be in the lower 50s into the water, but I think Saturday when I was out doing a little snooping around the lake, it was like 60 degrees still. So, yeah, it's getting there. It's just taking a while, but tis spring, tis fall in Indiana. Is it spring or is it fall? That's actually the way it should be. We don't know.
Yeah.
So, sorry, no coolers in the background. We donated them to a wedding this weekend, and they haven't been returned yet. But I got my dog.
You got a new mascot.
My new mascot. Christmas lights on it. I mean, gotta have Christmas. Is it too early?
No, Halloween's over. Christmas is here.
All right. I mean, I seen a lot of reels today where people were getting out their lights already.
My 4-year-old was asking me Saturday if I was going to put up the Christmas tree, and I was like, why don't we wait till after Halloween's over? And then I'm all for having a tree in the house. So,
well, let us know in the comments. Should the tree go up before or after Thanksgiving? Drop it in the comments. We want to know. We'll read those answers towards the end of the show. Tonight's guest is he is a former whitewater kayaker. He's a fishing guide. He is a man all about good wines. Welcome, Mr. Mike Blatt. I threw in a couple extra because I missed it in the intro.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Chad.
Hey, Mike, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm solo parenting this week. Well, let's see, through next week. Yeah, my wife took a trip over Let's see. If you drill a hole right under my feet, all the way through the planet, that's where she is.
Oh, wow.
Wow. She's in Korea this week. So,
Goodness.
Yeah.
So, well, let's jump into this thing, man. So we always ask on the Orion podcast, the first question out of the gate is we like to hear from our guests and kind of start the story off with, how did you get interested in the outdoors? What brought you to the great open?
Wow. There was a myriad of things. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, where you guys are talking about these seasons. New Orleans is famous for having one day of fall, one day of winter, and one day of spring, and the rest is just summer. If you're lucky enough to get out into the coastal lands and go fishing out by the oil rigs, you might get a little more breeze out there. But my parents both worked very hard. They were both physicians when I grew up as a kid, and we used to take our family vacations out to the backwoods of North Carolina and North Georgia. And I think it was catfishing back in those illegal ponds in the back of the golf course at Callaway Gardens, where the first time we saw 40-pound catfish.
Wow.
And then it was mountain biking and horseback riding with my mom, my dad, my brothers in Western North Carolina, where we eventually moved to when I was about 14 or 15 years old. My parents sent my brothers and I to a summer camp in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And then they moved us from New Orleans to Waynesville, North Carolina, which is about 40 miles west of 40 minutes, 20 miles west of Asheville. And we all got bikes and we all got kayaks, and we just became that outdoor family. And we did it all.
There you go. So what part led you to whitewater kayaking? How did you get there?
There was a kid in my cabin in summer camp when I was 14. I went to Falling Creek Camp in Tuxedo, North Carolina, who was a sponsored kayaker. This is 1996. Oh, wow. And I believe he paddled a Dagger RPM. And the cool trick back then was a stern squirt, where you just put the tail of your boat in the water and the nose of your boat sticking up in the air. And it was the coolest thing. Learned how to roll a kayak. I think my brothers just started kayaking right then and there. And then my mom and my dad both got kayaks at Nantahala Outdoor Center, the big fall festival, the Guest Appreciation Festival that year. And then we always went whitewater rafting around Western North Carolina, and we just decided as a family to take the very next step, which was logical. How can this go wrong? If you want to hear a funny story later, we'll get to my parents whitewater kayaking.
We're all about that.
We've got nothing but time.
Oh, if they're watching, all right. So, Dad, I'm sorry if I butchered this story, because this is mostly his account. But when you're whitewater kayaking, when you're learning in a lake, you learn how to roll. And when you're being spotted by somebody, you can do something called a Eskimo rescue for an Eskimo roll. So you turn upside down, and if for some reason you miss that roll, you put your hands on the bottom of the boat, and your partner comes up to you and nudges your boat. And so you're doing this on the side of the boat upside down, and you can feel their boat. So my parents, both brilliant physicians, right? Like smartest people I know, besides my wife. I hope she's watching. My dad goes under, misses his roll. My mom nudges her boat onto his boat. Well, he's thinking in his head, she's on this side, when in fact, she's on that side because he's upside down. So he didn't put this together. And all he can think about is, I think I just redid that life insurance policy. Is that really going to happen right now? This can't be it. And so, of course, you pop your skirt, you do a wet exit, and he comes up yelling like, "Where were you? Where were you?" And and this is one of our favorite stories to tell around new friends, new family, because they're so honest about that. And I'm glad I wasn't there, because I just would have been like, Dad, Mom was right again. You were on the wrong side. So after that, none of us volunteered to go work with them on their role in the lake.
Well, I could see that. So that's got to be, so you're in the Northeast now, coming from New Orleans and the Carolinas and stuff like that, where it's been warm, man. I know we've talked about ice fishing a little bit, but man, how'd you get acclimated to that?
So when we weren't traveling, mountain biking and whitewater rafting or kayaking, when we lived in New Orleans, you heard of this holiday called Mardi Gras.
Just a little bit.
Kind of a big thing. I have been to Mardi Gras on Mardi Gras Day twice in my life. Once I was dressed as a Ninja Turtle. My dad was Michelangelo. I was Leonardo. My mother dressed up like April O'Neil. And then another year, we dressed up like Cats. We were obsessed with the musical at that time. Every other time, we would actually fly out. My parents found Park City, Utah in like 1989. This is back when lift tickets were $29. And so we started skiing out west. And that's just what happened. So I thought Deer Valley ski instructors were the coolest thing, right? I had a ski instructor when I was a kid, moved to Western Carolina. There's a little ski area near our house called Cataloochee Ski Area. I start teaching snowboarding and then eventually start teaching skiing. And then after I went to school at Appalachian State, taught at the Little Mountains there. And then I had a month-long winter break, full month that I didn't have anything committed between my last two senior semesters. And I called up the hiring manager at Deer Valley and I said, hey, can I come work there for like a month? So I did. And it snowed 3 out of 4 weeks. I called my dad, told him that I wasn't going back to school. So I took a 7-year winter break. During ski seasons, I spent time at the Ocoee River and paddling all over the world, Australia, Central Europe, and other places like that. Basically, anybody who invited me to come visit them in another country, I went to go visit. And I got acclimated to the Utah winters, which was a good stepping stone. The first time I got new boots when we moved to New England 3 years ago, I said, I don't need the heated liners. Don't worry about that. And they said, where are you from, boy? And that first winter, that first cold day, this is a new kind of cold. I thought I was ready for it, and I got a little better. And then last year I started ice fishing, and that was an entirely new planet for me. But like you said earlier, Zach, the weather's really not doing what it should be doing right now. I went fishing today. The water was 55 degrees. The air was 65. And luckily the trout were not scared. I just started trout fishing last week, maybe last week. And I just thought I was bad at trout fishing, but it's actually the weather. So right now we're cruising. It's a really beautiful fall. We lost our leaves a couple weeks ago, but I'm enjoying this. When people say, what's the weather going to be like if we go fishing next week? The end of October. And I say it's a high of 80, low of 20, chance of rain, sleet, or snow.
Yeah.
That is New England.
Yeah. And man, the cold is, I remember the first time I stepped off a plane in Connecticut, in Hartford, and it was cold and it was snowing and it was winter. It's just different. It is a very different kind of cold up there. And there's not a lot of moisture in it. It's just cold. It's just the only way to describe it. Of course, people in Antarctica and Alaska are going, come up here.
Yeah.
But so talking about guiding, and I mean, you've done all these amazing things. How in the world did you make it to fishing guide from those different activities? That's wild, man.
I guess I don't know if I could blame or thank COVID or lockdown. We moved to White River Junction, Vermont. My wife, my daughter, and I. She just graduated from getting her MBA at Dartmouth last summer, and we moved here from. And we'll get to the 9-year career in the wine industry later, Chad. But San Diego for 9 years, which has no weather. So we moved here 3 years ago. My wife just graduated, got her MBA, and the running joke was, when she called me to tell me she wanted to move up here, I said, well, let me Google this. I didn't know where Dartmouth was. I didn't know where she was. And so she said she wants to move here and go to school. And all of a sudden, I see that there are 7 of the best ski areas in the United States within a 90-minute drive of where she wants to go to school. And so I said, all right, well, I've been on a 9-year hiatus. I can teach skiing again. Why not? So the running joke was Mike wanted to teach skiing again. So Sarah gets into this Ivy League MBA program. And that's exactly what I did. I taught very part-time at Stratton Mountain in Vermont. And they have a great kids program. So my daughter went to the kids program while I was teaching skiing. And then COVID hit. And we had this extra time in the spring and then bleeding into summer of 2020. And we live right next to the Connecticut River, which divides Vermont and New Hampshire, right in the central parts of the state. And it's this beautiful flat section of river. It's dam controlled, rarely runs above 5,000 CFS. But it's a lake, basically. It's a moving lake. And we all decided, you know what, let's get kayaks. There's an island over here. We can camp, we can, build a fire. And so started looking at kayaks, and I said, oh, you'll just need to sit on top kayak. And I said, but I'm going to get a whitewater boat. I'm going to get a sprint boat so I can, take advantage of this flat water river and maybe get back into whitewater kayaking. So I got this big, long green race boat and started paddling it. And then one day after fishing from shore with my daughter for the umpteenth time, we had a lot of fun catching fish. The Disney themed frozen Elsa rod is still the favorite of the family. It still works. I took my wife's kayak, paddled across the river, and in 2 hours caught 20 fish. And I said, okay, this is a thing. So I Googled kayak fishing, and that was a can of worms. And then realized this is almost as expensive as skiing and whitewater kayaking combined.
Absolutely.
So one day my wife says, you just try to find a different way to pay for this. You've been teaching skiing for so long. You're a great teacher. You teach people how to fish. And you guys are looking at what my last name is Blatt, Blatt. And we call this gear shack or the garage the Blatt Cave. So TBC Guide Services was born, the Blatt Cave. Now,
I like it.
If my wife is watching, yes, I know it's November. This will be emptied out for your car before the first snow per our agreement. But I get this during the summer. And so I started taking a couple people fishing. I started in like August or September of 2020, which is not a good time to start in New England fishing.
I can imagine that.
So 2021 was when I first, filled out all the right paperwork to start the company, and quickly got on Google's search engine, and people started finding me, and started fishing with people who wanted to kayak and see the sights, but then maybe a significant other wanted to fish at the same time. Lots of couples on these trips. It's been great. And just literally fell into this. Didn't really think it was going to become my life until it actually became my life. And it was all meeting those people. It's your guests. You know, those first few great guests that you get when you see someone get hooked on a sport that you have recently fallen in love with, or that you share the same passion. You want that feeling again, and you want to be able to do that for someone else over and over again.
Yeah, because you're not like some of these old gritty guys that are like, you still got the excitement and the passion.
Yeah.
It's still really fresh for you. So
I'm still young. Give me a few years.
You're not old and crusty yet.
Yeah. Oh man, the doc talk we did with Jim Sammons? I don't know if you got to listen to any.
Oh, I watched it. Oh yeah,
that was a good one. But
you get stories, you know. And you hold on to those stories for years. He's going to be telling those till he's 80.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine. Zach and I have probably never guided anybody outside of our close friends. We've all had that one buddy that says, I want to go, take me and show me. And then you take them and you show them. And next thing you know, they're off to the races. And kind of how
and then they're taking your stand, they're taking your fishing spot.
Yeah. Well, that's rule number 1 is you only go here when I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, we've kind of got those. We've got a good set of ground rules established on our end, but
you learn that hunting out west real quick when you go with a couple people and they've got their public land spots. Yeah, that's only you're only here when I'm here sort of thing.
So, guiding and all that stuff. What are you primarily fishing for? What are you doing out there?
So, my initial plan was to hop on the Connecticut River and show people that there are walleye up here. Because I went on this fishing trip with some friends when I was in San Diego. We flew to Winnipeg and we took a float plane, landed at this lodge in the middle of nowhere. And my first 5 minutes, and I hook into a 36 inch huge walleye. Like they see it once a year. They named it. I don't remember the name of it. And it always stuck in the back of my head. So walleye was kind of the thing. And then started catching pike on the Connecticut River. And then I realized that you needed to be a licensed New Hampshire guide. Even though I lived in Vermont, it divided New Hampshire and Vermont. You have to it's owned by New Hampshire. Unless you catch a fish in less than 18 or 12 inches of water on the Vermont side, if you don't have a Vermont fishing license, that is an illegal fish if you keep it. So it's crazy laws on these border waters. So I'm actually on my 3rd step, becoming a New Hampshire licensed fishing guide. Took the written exam, took the map and compass exam. And after this whole story, let me tell you about my rescue scenario. But it just kind of, it bled into finding out what else is there. I did the responsible thing. I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I did when I was a creek boater. The number 1 rule when you're creek boating is you always go kayaking with somebody better than you. Whether it's creeking or river running, you know, they are going to save your life if you are in need of it. So I hired a guide. And my dad was here. I think my uncle was here. And we went fishing for bass, and it's the biggest largemouth bass I've ever caught. And these were small to this fishing guide, right? And so I learned some of these other waters in Vermont, and I start taking people fishing for bass. So it was mastered drop shotting on deep water, 20 feet deep, and just hooking into some huge fish. And they're catching 3, 4, 5-pound smallmouth bass, largemouth bass from a kayak and actually getting pulled on a lake. It was amazing to watch their face do this. And my daughter, I can't fish with my daughter anymore. I barely get a line in the water, and she's on her third fish. And she loves smallmouth bass. She uses Trait Zaldane makes this fishing rod with eagle claw. They sell it at Walmart. It's amazing, but it's made for women. It's purple and gold, and she has 2 of them. And that's her fishing rod. And it's so much fun. When I'm not finding fish, I take my daughter Grace, and I say, Grace, just cast where you think you should. And evidently she finds the fish. So it started with bass, lots of largemouth, lots of smallmouth. And then I get a lot of people that come up here. I'm listed with Airbnb experiences. I get a lot of international travelers. And these folks do not understand the catch and release thing.
I can see
that.
They
say, I want to go fishing for something I can eat. Yeah. And so we go target large bluegill, large yellow perch. And it's a different style of fishing. And it's been really fun learning how to fish for those fish in certain bodies of water. Just to caveat this, if you do come fishing with me, you want to take fish home and fillet them and eat them. I don't fillet your fish. So don't ask me to teach you how, or, I'm going to send you a video is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you to YouTube. I'm going to send you here. But my wife doesn't like scales in her sink. So I don't fillet a lot of my own fish. I will have a fillet table in our backyard at some point. But the great thing about her traveling, especially for work, is she doesn't know when fish are getting filleted at her house until she finds that scale. There's always one scale, which is why I started trout fishing, because the scales don't get rubbed off nearly as much or at all. So yes, target species, freshwater, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, yellow perch, and bluegill. And the pike are elusive, but during ice fishing season, that is the best time to get pike. And it's been really fun to learn how those big guys eat.
Now, how are you staying up with, I think Zach and I would both be very interested. How are you staying up with different bodies of water and the different fish all at the same time? I mean, that's got to be a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah.
You have to fish.
Yeah.
So my daughter gets on the bus at 7:10 in the morning. I am usually out the door by 8 o'clock, and I'm going to check out a new body of water, whether it's on the ice or it's moving water, no matter the time of year. When someone comes fishing with me, I need to say, I caught this many fish I don't tell them I caught this many fish at this time last week, because if they don't catch that many fish at that spot, but I know where they are. Right. It's constantly going out to find new lakes. And honestly, it's the sonar, it's the fish finders. I'm not using those to find the fish. I'm using them to look at the temperature of the water and how deep it is. So I'm trying to remember the contours of the bottoms of these. And these are small lakes. This is not like the South. The biggest lake I fish right now is 740 acres, and it has some rises and some falls, and it gets to 40 feet deep. Some spots it's maybe 50. Now the river, hopefully in the spring after I've passed my final New Hampshire exam, completely different. 90 feet behind an island in the middle of the river, 2 feet deep in front of that island. And you just have to fish it. That's the thing. And so in the morning, when my wife says, "Where are you going today?" I said, I'm going to go try out this new body of water. Well, can you do this, this, and this? I said, absolutely. I have a honey-do list. She doesn't call it a honey-do list, but it's the things we need to do. And I try to get to most of it. I really do try. But long answer to your short question is, you have to fish to know where you're going. Even this spring, I went with my dad for his 70th birthday to Wilmington, North Carolina. We went red fishing.
Right.
And I asked the guide, I said, how did you pick this spot for today? He said, right after I drop you guys off and I have my next trip, I'm going to fish this other spot because this other guy wants to catch these fish and I think they're there. And so I have to make sure I can go find them. And so that's what a guide does. You know, as a ski instructor, how are you going to take somebody out who wants to ski a certain terrain with certain conditions unless you know the day before, maybe, you know, you got to see that spot. So I try to, instead of guess things are going to be there, I have to go there a couple of days prior or the day before is ideal.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how do you, I guess this would be the best question for yourself is how do you keep your body and your mind going during this? I mean, because fishing can be a grind. I mean, you can have rough body beating days out on the water. We've all been there and had it, and it's taxing. And to be out there doing it every single day, 6-7 days a week, man, it's got to be hard on you.
And it gets expensive.
Yeah.
You know, and you learn things the hard way. In June, we had some of the best fishing that I could have hoped for. We also had 20 days of 15-mile-per-hour winds. And I started this year, and it bled into July. I started this year on a Jackson Big Rig, and it was great. Love that boat, very stable. But man, with those 1.5 and 2 foot swells in that lake, that boat was swamped a lot. Especially I'm showing off my trolling motor. With this trolling motor on the front of the boat, it's even worse. And then when the NAR came out, this thing cut through the water. Yeah, it was great. I lost my, how much is that? $350 Werner hook paddle. Lost one of those in the wind. And I have no idea. I went around that day and looked for it. I have no idea where it went. I know it floats. But the fish were so worth it. I do a lot of hiking, try to stay active, but the grind of the getting out there, being in the sun, being in the wind, just got to push through it. Staying hydrated is big. And you have to, I'll have guests call me all the time and they'll say, hey, can we bring beer fishing? Can we drink in the water? And I'll say, you can bring one, or, you have to earn it. And you have to catch a good fish before you start popping beers, because this is not fishing on a boat. This is, you are responsible for yourself. You're on a kayak. You earn that drink. And so on a good day, on the way back, if I bring a beer with me, I have it on the way back. I rarely will have a beer when I'm out fishing. I'm not going to say, well, I'm not catching anything, I should have a beer. You have to eat on the water. There's a very good friend of mine named Steve. He's probably mid-60s, and he brings his lunch. He's one of those brown bag lunch guys, that you see eating in the park on random days, right? When we're not catching fish, I say, Steve, it is noon. It's time for you to eat. Whenever he starts eating lunch, I start catching fish. But as soon as he eats lunch, he gets this second wind on using a different bait or something. And it's not superstitious. It's more mental. It's like, all right, we've refueled our bodies. I'm more confident now. I'm going to finish pedaling over here. I'm going to turn off the motor and I'm going to finish pedaling to that side of the lake. And it is pretty taxing. One of the whole reasons that you see this giant trailer behind me, 2 days into my 40s last year, tweaked my back. 5 days in bed.
Don't you love the 40s?
Oh God,
I'm over it.
My wife says, "Are you going to cancel that trip you have, in 10 days?" I said, "Nope. I'm going to push through it." And I pushed through that, but 5 days in bed, and I'm never lifting a kayak into or onto a truck again that weighs over 98 pounds.
I will agree.
Lesson learned. But the pedaling and the paddling, and you guys had a big talk on Doc Talk about this, Chad. Can you paddle these big boats? And you can, but you should. You should train yourself. You should go out on a day and go earn your fish. Go paddle for that 1 mile, 2 miles. Step up every time you can, because at one point in big water, if you decide to take a swim or your boat decides it for you, you're gonna wish that you had a little bit more lung capacity. Yeah, and you just have to stay a little bit more on top of it. As I sit here and drink my whiskey.
Well, we've said it, I think, on almost every show that we've had to do with the fishing. Yeah. It's not if, it's when.
And it becomes a safety issue at a point.
Yeah, it really does.
It's like buying that $100 lure. It's like placing a bet. If you have the money to spend, great, please do it. But just know that every time you throw that, you might be losing $100.
Yeah.
And that's the way you got to go for it. Every time you go out, I still wear my whitewater rescue PFD, my astral green vest. Always goes on my body. I have a tether. I always will give one of my clients the other rescue PFD. I carry a rope. It's not moving water, but you just never know.
No, you really don't. Have you had a situation where a client's gotten out and just the elements have outmatched them on the water, where you've had to kind of step in and say, "Hey, let me get you back"?
I've never had that in a kayak. I've definitely had that on the ice. One of the common misconceptions is, "Oh, I'm coming skiing, so I can just wear my ski stuff out on the ice." Mm-hmm. And the thing about skiing versus ice fishing is we are not constantly moving unless we are running over the ice to get to our next flag at our tip up. So I've had a few people, and we call them, at the little ski mountain that I teach at part-time out here, we call them the stumbles, the umbles, and the mumbles. Mm-hmm. And so when you start hearing someone who's not having a beer, stumbling in their speech or mumbling, or doing, just missing things, mundane tasks, they're starting to get cold, and I've had to walk people back. Luckily, with the pedal drives on the kayaks, if you can pedal a bike, even if you can't ride two wheels, you can pedal a kayak. Yeah. I ask a lot of questions before I take people out, and I say, I want to make sure I have the right equipment. How tall are you? How much do you weigh? And then the question after that comes, do you need to know how to swim to do this? Oh, what? We're going to go on the wooden lake boat today with the motor, which I've had to do once. Mm-hmm. And she had a great time. And it was just us. And unfortunately, that opened my eyes to how many fish you can catch when you have a motor on your boat. That goes more than 5 miles per hour. Yeah. But we're not getting there yet. Just I'm happy with my kayaks right now. I don't need a motorboat yet.
Well, and I think the kayak fishing offers something different probably than just a regular boat tour would add to somebody.
Yeah, it's quiet for one.
Yeah, and you're, like you said at the start, man, you're down there, you're in the elements, you're with the fish. I mean, Zach, you can tell them it's
why we got into it.
Yeah. Yeah. We've both been in a big boat, and it's just kind of like, we always like the creek, when we
were always putting a bigger boat in skinnier water than it should be in anyway.
It got us in trouble once, big time.
Mm-hmm. I was jealous of those guys in the canoe with all the camo on it, and they were coming back from duck hunting, and it just dawned on me. I started Googling, kayaking and hunting. Whoa, okay, that's a thing too.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah.
The U-pick, the Kilroy. When the Kilroy first came out, we had the at Jackson. We had the actual blind that went over the. Wasn't really a blind; it was just a cover that set on the Kilroy and turned it completely realtree.
That's cool.
It was a big thing. You can outfit one of those really well for a duck blind. And Brummett, our good buddy here in town, he's actually thinking about the U-pick or the Take Two. Just because of the open layout, and you could duck blind it if you wanted to. Not to put more ideas in your head.
Well, I've got a buddy over in Maryland that does some of that.
I do have a funny story about hunting and boats. So I mentioned I'm going through this process with the New Hampshire guide licensing. So you have the option, they'll give you your map and compass portion, and they give you a rescue scenario. So I studied very hard. My wife is a combat veteran. She knows how to work a map still better than I ever will. But I learned how to shoot an azimuth. I know how to get places when I'm lost. But they gave me a scenario of me taking two elderly gentlemen fishing on a body of water that I have been to for 2 days in my life. And it's April, and one of them is diabetic and also epileptic. So he has a seizure. And if you're just joining, this is a practice scenario. This is not a trip with Mike. He falls in the boat. And, by the way, the fog's rolled in, so it's 1/10 of a mile visibility. They didn't say this, but I'm pretty sure I killed him. I don't know where the hospitals are. I knew where to go. I knew how to get there. I knew where the lights were that I could see, but they didn't like the answers to my questions. And they do this, in the wine industry, I went through the sommelier process. That was easier than this process. It is absolutely crazy. But during all this training, there were some people who were also going through the hunting training. And you have to pass a different written exam and also go through a different scenario. And one of their scenarios they trained on was Bob Joe and Jim Bob took a hunting trip with you. They're in a canoe. It's October. They're in this pond, and you're on shore. Well, you hear a shot ring out. Well, Jim Bob has shooting Bob Joe, or whatever name I made up, in the leg. Now the bullet went through his leg into the canoe, and it's taking on water. What do you do? And so you have to know what to do, plug the hole with something that you have, and you have to yell from shore. And, and they say, oh, I'm going to go out there. Like, no. You can't go out there. You can't be a third victim in this. You have to stay on shore, yell commands. But I'm thinking of this, and, I've seen the movie Darwin Awards. I've read the Darwin Awards each year, seen how some of these people come to their demise the dumbest ways, but I never knew I would actually be tested on it. And so it's been interesting going through this process. I couldn't imagine mixing in rifles in a kayak or shotgun yet. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. Bow hunting, I think, is my next thing. Zach, all my friends who are not on the water right now taking my fish, they are all bow hunting. Well, muzzle season opened just this week or last week. Yeah. So you're on the lake, you're the only one there, and you just hear shots ring out. And then you get messages later like, hey man, I got some backstrap. Hey, got some tenderloin. Got some sausage.
Yeah. That's an early muzzleloader season, sure.
That's Vermont for you.
Yeah. I don't know when it kicks off here. Indiana will be late November on that.
Yeah, it's the week before Thanksgiving?
Well, no, gun season comes in around the 14th, and then it'll be in 2 weeks, and then goes out for a week or two, and the muzzleloader comes in.
Yeah. First week of December usually is muzzleloader season.
Yeah, it's right around there.
You can bow hunt all the way through, basically from
October 1st to
January
7th or 8th, something like that.
Something like that.
I don't think I've shot a bow since 1995, at least.
Time to pick it back up.
There was one of those indoor ranges in outside of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
One of my vivid memories, there was this hotshot guy at that place, and he took his giant bow, and there was one target that was a steel hog, and its heart was hollowed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he drew back, and man, he hit that thing with a $20 tip on that arrow, and you hear this ding, and he's like, "Well, that's $20." But he got it. I mean, the arrow went through the heart, but the tip just run out on the edge.
Oh yeah,
skipped it off the edge. Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah, those
the steel targets will get you.
They will.
Mentally more than anything.
Yeah, and then after you miss the first one on a steel target, it becomes a game of principle.
How much money do I want to spend today? No, we see that at the TAC events a lot. There's the end of every day. There's a 5-gallon bucket just shoved full of arrows where guys have bounced them off trees and steel targets, and I'm like, geez, people. There's guys that show up with a couple dozen arrows and they may not leave with any.
And we've all donated to that bucket, guaranteed.
You'll have that. You'll have those days.
Oh yeah, Nancy's Broken Arrow.
I miss that place.
Yeah, that always had the steel targets. That's always a good.
And
shot.
the laying down gator over at the boar's nest. That was always a good one.
Yeah,
the big pond right just over his back.
Yeah,
we always wondered how many arrows were in that pond.
That was the first shot, Mike, out of the gate. You had to shoot literally across this pond. It didn't start easy. So I mean, they just took the wind out of your sail right out of the gate.
Kicked you in the teeth as soon as you got out of the truck. They closed the boar's nest, unfortunately.
Did they? I remember they had that little bear target that they would put out there on the floaty, and you had to shoot it, and then you had to winch the floaty.
Yeah, I had to use the rope to pull him back in. Yeah.
But
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, the most dangerous thing I think in terms of fishing this year was I partnered with a local golf course, and they have a whole community out in Vermont. And I called them last year and I said, "Hey, I heard there was some good fish in your lake. How can I take people fishing there?" And they said, "Well, add us to your insurance and take a group of our members' kids in February fishing. Take them ice fishing." I was like, "All right, done, deal." Well, some of the best bass fishing on this lake is on the far side, where you have like hole 8 and 9, I think. And these are not the best golfers in the world. And I will warn guests. I'll say, "Hey, listen, when people start playing, you'll see them down there. You'll hear the carts come along, but we're not going to fish by this flag, by these sand traps. Why? Hang back here and watch for a minute." Yeah. And you inadvertently, and you're not catching fish for an hour, and you hear a splash, like, "Whoa, what was that?" Like, it's a golf ball, but don't get excited, because if you say anything, they're going to get offended about, "Oh, I thought that was a fish." Yeah. And we're not going there because Captain Slice-A-Lot is going to hit you in the head, and they're not going to yell for, because nobody should be there in their lake. And it got a little dangerous. There was I never got a boat hit this year, but definitely had a splash about 10 feet beside me. And that was, and they weren't doing, they weren't malicious about it. It's just that, they maybe had an off day, or they should have hit a dog leg when they, instead of slicing it down my way.
Right. Well, our favorite strip through the creek here is unfortunately near the end of the game. So, so a good long Saturday of drinking and playing 18 holes can get a little dicey. And there's you can pick up a lot of golf balls if anybody ever needs a set of golf balls. We can tell them where to get them.
Yeah, just
Some
take
of
a
the
walk
best
down
golf
the
balls
creek.
there is. Yeah, but there's been some days. Well, we played. Well, we didn't play. We was fishing Memorial Day weekend during the biggest one of the biggest tournaments of the year. We fished right down the middle of the creek. It was interesting.
Taking our life in our own hands for sure.
We really was. And we had tree canopy over us, but you could still hear balls hitting the water and bouncing off trees. You just shudder.
Hold on. She wants to say hi real quick.
That's fine.
She's wearing her Guns N' Roses t-shirt.
Hey.
That's
Sorry,
awesome.
Oh,
Hello.
I talked about you. Don't worry. Go ahead, I'm almost done. Go ahead.
But
okay, I'll be up in a minute.
So what's in store for 2023 for you, man?
Since joining the Jackson kayak fishing team, which has been really cool, that was funny. So while I was in North Carolina, picking up my trailer, picking up my new Jackson kayaks, deciding I'm going to go Jackson, I'm going to stick with one brand. I filled out their Become a Jackson team member application and put a lot of thought into this. Well, the guy that reached out to me about becoming a team member, I asked him, have you ever seen my application? He said, never seen the application. I like your pictures. I like what you do. And it's like, all right, cool enough. There's a lot to do with the team. I want to fish with more of these guys. I want to be able to, and gals, I want to drive around the country and get on, the coastal waters, Louisiana and Texas and things of that nature. But it's more of just becoming more established. After my wife graduated, we decided we were going to stay here. Her office is in Boston. She goes there sometimes, but we decided to stay ingrained in the community up in Hanover, New Hampshire. So March 6th is my exam at the New Hampshire Fish and Wildlife Office, where I'm hopefully going to pass that. And I will be a licensed New Hampshire fishing guide. So they'll put me on their website. I get to take people fishing on the Connecticut River for pike and for walleye. I cannot wait for that. And also the fleet of kayaks is going to be all pedal drive optional. If people want to paddle, they can still paddle. But I feel like the pedal drive gives people the ability to fish a little bit more than paddle.
Yeah.
And so that's
especially on those windy days.
Yeah. Oh, and then those windy days. But 23 is going to be more of fishing with the clients that I've met these past 2 years with more updated equipment. The reason I have 2 Jackson NARs is because I want people to be able to step into the greatest and latest thing that Jackson has to offer. And the retailer is right down the road, an hour away. And it's quickly becoming one of the biggest new brands in New England that's taking over. People are used to having to pay $6,000 for a fishing kayak up here because it's mostly on outshore, inshore, saltwater fishing. And this little secret pocket of the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont and New Hampshire, it exists. People are doing a really good job keeping it a secret. But it's not to spread the word of how great the fishing is up here. My approach is very instructional. I like people wanting to leave me, wanting to get their own boats. If they want to come back a year later and learn some more, great, we'll do it. I took a guy fishing today at no cost. He was a classmate of my wife's at business school. He's also a West Point grad. He's taken me, I've taken him and his wife fishing twice on trips. And she always catches the bigger fish, either through the ice or from the kayak. And today I said, hey, listen, I'm going to this new spot. I want to catch trout. I've been trout fishing for a week. Come with me. Let's see what we find. He said, well, I want to, my mother-in-law's here. I want to bring some fish home to eat. And we caught one brown trout. It was 15 inches, nothing crazy, but it's going to be delicious. A yellow perch and a good bass, and it's cold water. I'll eat largemouth bass out of cold water. And so he took a bunch of fish home to fillet for his mother-in-law. And I cannot wait to see what kind of dish he cooked up. But it's more of reconnecting with the people who I've already been out with and just becoming more of a staple in the community. The hotels around here, they know who I am now. And when someone comes into town and they Google fishing, I'm one of the first people that gets pulled up. And
cool.
If you call me and you want to take 4 people out fishing and catch a ton of fish, we could probably do it at one point when I get more boats. But you're going to hop in a kayak, you're going to be out with me doing what I'm doing. It's a different experience. You're going to be learning how to do this on your own. And that's what I keep wanting to instill, and just keep wanting this to go further and further. It's been a lot of fun. I do want a separate garage for my stuff, and my wife can have her garage back 365 days a year. That is definitely a big goal. And she doesn't know this yet. So if she's watching, whoops, I want to get my daughter her own fishing kayak. That's the biggest goal of 23, and really just make Jackson Kayaks proud for bringing me on. And, hopefully going from the regional team side to national team side at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Michael.
And I need an Orion cooler. Haven't ordered one yet.
I know a guy.
Big goals.
Yeah, we've got big ones. We got wheels. We got the whole 9 yards. Flip, flop, cart. So as we're coming into the hour here, we try to keep this thing about an hour. Mike, I'm going to let you tell everybody how to find you. Where did you get a hold of your guide service? Thank any sponsorship people that you need to thank. And all that fun stuff.
So let's see. I have 3 minutes. I'll try to do this.
Oh, you can shoot over.
It doesn't. It's not a. It's not a countdown.
You can't go over the hour.
Got it. Really want to thank Jackson Kayaks, especially. I would not be in this sport like I am right now without Jackson Kayaks. And one of my sponsors is coming back in right now. Hey, I'm almost done. I promise. I'm right there. I see.
No, Daddy. I found the spider web.
Okay, I'll be right there to get the spider.
I'm scared of spiders.
I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds. All right, then you can hang out right here. Outdoor New England in Franklin, New Hampshire, by the way, is my retail sponsor. Officially now, there are 3 team members. 2 are whitewater, and then there's me. So Marty at Outdoor New England is incredible. He kind of welcomed me as a member of the family, and that's where I'm going to be sending all my clients that come fishing wanting their own boats. And I found out they carry Orion coolers. Yep. So if you want Orion cooler, and I can't wait to outfit my Orion cooler as my minnow bucket and take it out on the ice this year as soon as I order it. Thank you, Boo. Renogy Solar, who I use for, you can see the solar panel in that side of the garage. Decided to put that on top of the truck to charge the batteries that charge the trolling motor, or that run the trolling motor. And on good sunny days, it works. And others, I'm just plugging into the wall. Who else should we thank? My wife, Sarah. She is one of my biggest sponsors because she puts up with this passion of mine. And everything changed when she saw me catch my fish. She saw me for the first time catch a fish through the ice. She said, okay, I get it. And one of my biggest bass was caught while she was writing her graduation speech for her graduation last year. And then, of course, my parents for getting me into the outdoors is my biggest sponsors. And I know. I'm not letting you go. I'll be right back. Okay, I'll be right there. Go. One more. I promise. Am I forgetting anybody that I mentioned last time, Chad?
Nah, not that I know of.
Okay.
Outdoor New England, Jackson Kayak, Orion Coolers, the wife.
And and you can find me. So Instagram at TBC Guides, and my website I'm almost there. My website is tbcguides.fish. Yes, .fish is a thing. .com costs $2,200. .fish costs 37 cents. So we went .fish.
Nice.
Write that down, Zach.
It's more.
Yes.
Mine's
mine's .co because I couldn't get .com. So.
And if you still use Facebook, which I'm told is a very boomer thing to do, I don't qualify as a boomer, but I am TBC Guides or TBC Guide Services. I'm still listed on there as the Blatt Cave. So if you Google the Blatt Cave, you can find a myriad of things. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. And Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me talk.
Thanks for stopping by.
If I sent you this link today and you've heard all these stories, it's just there's a lot of people who haven't. And come fishing. I want to hear your stories. There's a lot of downtime while you're pedaling across the lake.
Okay, and before we let you go, for the official record, it was 3-1 on the tree before Thanksgiving. One voted no. It's bad luck. So we had 3 votes.
I don't even have to decorate it. I just wouldn't mind having a tree in the house. It is that time of year.
I'm just putting it out there. It was 3-1.
It's one of the best things to do when you're not going to the malls on Black Friday. You're going to pick out your tree, and when you're in Western North Carolina, especially in Boone, where a lot of the tree farms are, you are seeing all of those license plates and all those people come out from Cary and from Charlotte and Gastonia. They're coming to cut down their own tree. Yeah. I have never cut down my own tree, but I've done enough yard work to know you don't bring kids to cut down a tree, let alone the day after you're eating your biggest meal of the year. But you may put up your tree on Black Friday because I have done it. And I'm Jewish, and I put up my Christmas tree on Black Friday.
There you go.
We call it the Hanukkah bush.
Hanukkah bush. I like it.
I never heard that one, but I dig it.
All right, Mike, we will let you go, and we're going to close this thing out, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Another good episode of the Orion Podcast in the books.
Yeah.
We'll see you start guiding. We'll teach you to be a fishing guide.
Yeah, I'll do that in my spare time.
In your spare time. You and both the girls?
Yeah.
We had to get you one of them.
Zoe would probably sink the boat. That's the level she's on right now. So
yeah, there'll be that. There's gonna be that. But so we will be back in action. Looks like, looking at the calendar, because it's a new calendar, the 15th of the fine month of November, episode 21. Come back and see us. Don't forget, stop by jacksonkayak.com. Pick up your brand new Orion cooler today. Cheaper than
hopefully we have some stories about putting some deer meat in an Orion when we come back.
I hope so. I can't wait for that call Saturday night. It's like, hey, you need to wrap this tournament thing up. I got a deer down. We got stuff.
Bring your camera.
Bring your camera.
Yeah.
Get out here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate you. And we'll see you back here on the 15th for episode number 21. Good night.
Later.